Welcome to the Entrepreneur Academy workshops brought to you by Coastal Plain Regional Library System. I will be your host today, Elizabeth Ray. I currently own a small business and have operated it for the last 10 years. I've set up or advised many individuals to create their own businesses, and today I'm going to run through these basic steps on setting up your own business for success within the state of Georgia. I am an enrolled agent and I prepare all things tax related, from income tax returns, payroll tax returns, or bookkeeping for taxes. My expertise lie in this field. Additional past experience also lies in working for local governments with zoning, codes, historical commissions, and downtown economic development. This line of work has given me a well-rounded knowledge of how to successfully set up and run a business. And that's why I'm here to talk to you today about giving you the knowledge to set up your own business successfully. The slide presentation will outline the steps of how to successfully set up your business, and it does have a concentration on small business startups. So what we're going to do is go through this material together now. There's nothing fancy about this material. It doesn't need to be. It's simply a step-by-step guide of where to go, what you need, and how to properly set up your business. Additionally, print the slide out. It will be available for you. Make notes on each of them. It will be an opportunity to write on each of the pieces of what specifically you need to set up yourself successfully. So let's go now. I have an idea. Now what? There's many different opinions and many different ways that you can start, but I really felt like this was just some basic nitty-gritty. Here's what you need. 7 basic things. You need to choose an idea, plan your business, form your business and how to do that, register for taxes, open your bank account, set up your accounting, and don't forget marketing. So what does it mean I want to choose an idea? Well, you need to choose your idea and your business type. Honestly, what kind of business are you going to be? I'm in a service industry. Are you going to create something? Are you going to sell someone else's products? What is it that you want to do? Do you have an awesome idea that you would like to create? Is there a need? If you're going to sell a product or do a service or make a craft, is there a need for it in the area? Are you going to do it by yourself or are you going to have partners? How much money do you need to get started? Hey, here's a good question. Are you a business? How do I know if I'm a business? And what do you need to be successful? Well, let's talk about whether you're a business or not in the government's eyes. So, for tax years 2018 through 2025, no expenses are allowed to be deducted from income if it's hobby income. So, are you in it as a business? Are you in it as a hobby? So, for an old law, if you had a hobby and you made $3,000 because let's say you created something and you set up yourself on an Etsy account, okay? And you have $3,000 of gross revenue. That's great. You had $500 of expenses because you know what? You spent money to create whatever product you're making. So under the old law, you would actually report $2,500 of taxable income. But the current new law, if you're a hobby, means $3,000 gross revenue. They don't care if you spent $500 on expenses. You're going to report $3,000 of income. So how do I know if I'm a hobby or business? I don't like what I just saw, but how do I know if I qualify as a business? Well, do you meet a safe harbor determination by the Internal Revenue Service? What does that mean? The activity should produce positive taxable income for at least 3 out of 5 years. Great. So you have a startup. Most small businesses in their first year or so don't necessarily make a lot of income. A lot of them will have a negative. Yes, I said a negative. So what are people trying to do? Well, let's say that they started a small business. They invested $3,000, and they end up having a loss after everything is said and done, that they spent more money than they made. Guess what? You cannot do that for 5 years, okay? The activity has to produce taxable income for at least 3 out of 5 years. Well, what if I don't? You still could be deemed a business if you conduct the activity in a business-like manner. So, did you create a business plan? Hey, I'm really serious about this. Did you keep good records? Did you search for profit-making strategies? What's your past experience? Do you have expertise in the activity, or did you hire some expert to review it with you? Do you have a resume that shows that you're successful in other venues that have similar experiences? And then, are there assets used in the activity that are expected to appreciate in the value? Now, I don't know that a lot of people watching this are going to really be in that field, because that's primarily real estate. Real estate ownership is always a business, okay? Always a business. But what's the key issue here? What are we supposed to learn from this? Do not claim reoccurring losses on your return. What the Internal Revenue Service and the government has found is that people go out and they'll have a regular W-2 job that they're paying their taxes every week or monthly, and then they're using a loss on the business to offset that in order to reduce their taxable income so that they don't have to pay as many taxes. And so the government is clamping down on this by not allowing any of the expenses anymore. So here is the key. The activity produces positive taxable income, and that you have created all of the tools necessary to be successful. And we're going to talk about what those tools are today. Okay. So in working with many businesses, whether I was on the government side and economic development trying to help a small business, or whether I've been sitting in my own office trying to assist individuals to be successful, setting them up, looking through their books, how to do a plan, how to succeed in those plans, what are some pitfalls that I have always seen? And I want you to try to avoid those pitfalls. If you go in and you invest every single penny of your savings into an idea that you have not fully developed, it's great to be full in, okay? I'm taking all this money out and I'm going to do this and I'm fully committed. Do not be fully committed until you are fully developed a plan, which means go out, test your idea before you have a lot of your product. Determine where are you going to get the product. Like, figure out, where can I get the best deal? Who is going to invest with me? How much sales do I need to be successful? And understand, sales is whether you're selling a service, whether you're selling a product, whether you're selling a craft, whatever it is, how much do you need to be successful? What help do you need? Like, what are you not so great at that you need to call in someone else to assist you? How much time do you have to devote to your business? Now, if you are working this as a side job, do you have enough time to do that? How much space do you need? And is it a designated space? So you're going to start a business, and I opened by saying that this concentration is going to be on some small home-based startup businesses, but it could be anyone. If you're going to sell a product that you are making, where are you going to keep the inventory? How are you going to buy the product? Where are you going to build it? Is it a small item? Is it a large item? If you're going to sell inventory for someone else, where are you going to store it, etc. If you're going to do a service, do people need to come in and out? Do you need a space for people to come in and out of your home, etc.? What do you need to do? So these are things that, honestly, I have seen time and time again. It's not fully thought out. And when you look at it, you think, well, what? Anybody could think of this. But it's funny how often that doesn't happen. You're not thinking of it. So I'm not kidding. Print this out, look through it, and make some notes on what you're going to do to be successful. So one of the main components that you're going to need to show that you're serious, okay, about what you're doing is you are going to need a business plan. This does not have to be some huge document, okay? I mean, the more detailed you want to be, great. You can spend $15,000 if you want to pay a company to develop a business plan, but that is not what this session is about. This session is about what are the main components that are needed that you can do yourself. If you need help, if you need to find someone that has some expertise, then find them. I am not proposing that you pay someone to write a business plan. This is a do-it-yourself, okay? So write down your idea. Set your goals and objectives. Define your market. Set up your marketing goals and define your marketing strategies. Very important that you understand that each of these components will be detailed as we go through, and that it's just going to take you some time to do it. Also, the Small Business Association, they're a little busy right now. We're trying to assist lots of different entities with forgiveness loans and some other entities to keep the country going right now with the COVID, if this is during the COVID season. But the Small Business Association, they can assist you, or they have been able to assist you in the past with a business plan. One of the reasons this is very important also is that if you need a loan from someone, whether it be from a bank or even from a private investor, and that private investor could be a family member or someone you don't know, they're going to need to see your business plan. So step number 1, write it down. What does that mean? I want you to remember you need to put an executive summary is the first thing that you'll want to do. Remember, this is the first thing that the reader, the investor, or the customer is going to see. Don't write a book. Some people don't like to read books. Just read a paragraph, all right? This is a paragraph summary of the business. This is what makes your business different. And why should anyone buy your product? And what are the future plans? And how much money do you really need? All right, so that means you're going to have some details in there, right? You're going to have to put the details in it. But for the overall bullet points, this is what you have to do, okay? And the book has to come afterwards, because guess what? Anyone that's going to invest in your company, and any time that you're going to be successful to move forward, you're going to have to refer back to your business plan to stay on track. You're going to have to refer back, does this need to be changed or does that need to be changed? The point is that an investor, you have to capture their attention. And then if they capture their attention, then they'll flip to the next page to see how are we going to accomplish this and do I want to invest, okay? All right, so next we're going to set your goals and your objectives. This is mostly financial. This is going to be based on assumptions. All right? It's going to be based on, if I do this, then this will happen. If I do that, then this will happen. Okay? And it has to have projections for years 1 through 5. Most small businesses go out of business within the first 5 years. Most small businesses that go out of business have not written a business plan. They have not outlined these things. They have not listened to a presentation, copied out the information, made notes, and done this. And this isn't even very major technical. Think about how successful you can be if you do this, and 50% of the people whose businesses fail never do. By doing these things that are in this slide, by participating in these academy workshops and following through, you can be ahead of the game. What is your cash flow projections? How much cash are you going to need to accomplish your projections? And then explain your assumptions. How did you base your projections? Was it on monthly sales? Was it on the type of customer? Was it on the frequency of orders? If you're going to sell large furniture, how often is someone going to really need large furniture? How often does the furniture last? But if you're going to sell soap detergent because it's the greatest soap detergent ever, then they're going to need it more often. Detail is critical. How often do you think you'll make a sale? What are the types of sales? What is your profit margin? Where are you going to get your product? How much is the product going to cost? These are critical issues that you have to think about. All right, so let's talk about defining our market. So product description, it is everything. And you have to include the good and the bad about the product. Always be upfront. So what does that mean? Don't go in there and say, oh, I've got the best product ever. And this product is so great because it is environmentally friendly. And everybody's going to love it because, we're going to do great things and it's going to reduce the ozone, it's going to reduce, doing away with the ozone level. Okay, great. But did your soap? It doesn't suds up very great. So people don't think it works good. So you have, maybe that's a weakness. Or there's a weakness of, whatever the weakness is, you need to be honest. What is it that someone's not going to like about it? What is your market research? What is the size and the health of the business market that you're going to join into? In other words, what's your competition? If there's 15 other people selling the same exact product, then how are you different? Why are you needed? And don't forget, do product samples. Like, have a sample or a photo or a video in that plan so people can see it. And don't create 15,000 of them if you don't have one customer yet. Then set up some marketing goals. What is your logo? The logo needs to give the business some personality. And then how are you going to reach those customers? Like, your goal is, I want to reach 15,000 customers because I have 15,000 products. But do you need 15,000 products created up front, or do you need to wait until the order comes in? That's something that I've seen so many times. Honestly, over and over, people will go ahead and they'll create the item and they'll go ahead and spend the money for it, and then they'll have 2 years that they're in debt until they've actually been able to sell the back product. Instead, if they had created it and tried to sell it, and then once they make a sale, then they create the product and send it out. So it's, how are you going to reach the customer? Are you going to go ahead and create everything and try to go to markets, or are you going to create an initial version of it and then sell it and then create it afterwards? I mean, those are really key elements that a lot of times people forget about. That's money. That is money in the bank or money in the shelf, and that is what's going to help make or break your business. So now you have to define your marketing strategies. Now you know what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. But how are you going to get out there to get the word out? So these are, honestly, these are your strategies. You need to show that you're alive, that you have a viable product, that you have a viable idea. Show why you're the best and why you're the most unique. Explain your production process, all right? And look, this next line right here, relationships, that is going to be your number one, relationships. Get connected with people associated with doing the business. You cannot look at everyone as your competition if they do the same thing. You have to get to know people. You have to let them know, hey, I'm here, and then talk to them. What do you see as an issue? What do you see as some obstacles that we need to work through, etc.? Fully disclose funding for your investors as well, and do not fool yourself. So do you see how that's in parentheses, and yourself? Do not fool yourself. Know that how much you need, how much you're asking for, and how much is needed in order to be successful. These are all important aspects of this business plan. Now, in the very middle there, how do I get this read? Well, here's the KISS strategy. And since we're in the South, we're going to do keep it simple, sweetie. Hey, make it appealing. Just do a simple PDF copy that can be emailed to someone but cannot be altered, okay? When you're printing it, use quality paper and standard fonts. Do not get too fancy. As silly as it may sound, if it's too fancy and the investor or the person can't focus on what they're supposed to focus on because it looks too pretty, then guess what? Something gets overlooked and something might be missed. This presentation has a lot of great material that's just the nuts and bolts, and that's what you need. How do I do it? What does it need to say? And how do I put it together? And just do a simple cover. It doesn't have to be the fanciest in the world, okay? Clean, simple, and direct. So now we've got, I know what I'm going to do. I have an idea. Here's the people that's going to be with me. And you cannot form your business until you know this, okay? You can if you want to create yourself more trouble later. But if you will go in and you know, I am going to have this idea, here's who's going to invest, but and here's how it's going to be set up. I can prove that I am a business and not a hobby. Then you're going to form your business. And one of the main things that you're going to have to think of is you're going to need, what is your business name? Well, you've already created that, right? Now, when you go on to the Georgia Secretary of State, you are going to actually, this is how you're going to create your business. And what we're doing here is we're going to create a limited liability company. So the Georgia Secretary of State, and there's the site right there that you would go to, and you're going, and then we're going to get into the details, and it'll be right there for you to print out on how to, where to, what I need to get set up. But make sure you're actually going to need 3 business names. Your first choice, second choice, and third choice, okay? And then we'll get into that a little bit more. After, this is the #1 mistake I've seen. After you have gone to the Secretary of State and you have received your letter back that they accept your name and that you own your business name and no one else legally has the right to use your business name, then you go and you do an employer identification number with the business name, that was created. And for the purposes of this class, it is going to be assumed that you are going to be a sole proprietor, single member entity. Okay, so you're going to have to print out and save your EIN number because you're going to use it all the time and you're only going to get one. Let's go. Okay. So how do you do this? What are you really doing? You're actually registering for taxes. And do you remember how I started off saying that's what I do, all things taxes, income taxes, payroll taxes, bookkeeping for taxes, you know, all of it. So you have to register with the state and then with the federal government. So you're going to go on to the Georgia Secretary of State site, which is there, and the recommendation for this class is that you go ahead and create a limited liability company. And the reason for that is to protect yourself from any liabilities that could happen, being sued or being someone trying to come after you, or even for taxation purposes that, yes, I'm operating the business, but I do want to have some limited liability for taxation purposes as well. So what is it that you're going to need before you go to that site? You're going to need your personal legal name and your personal mailing address. You'll need an email address for correspondence because that is how they will correspond with you to send you information. And then you're going to need a business mailing address, and it could be the same. I mean, if it's your home address and your personal mailing address is the same, that's fine. You're going to need your top 3 name choices, which are listed in order of priority for your business. So what if you did a business plan and you have your everything set up and the logo is done, etc.? Well, what in the world if you have to change your name? Be creative, you know, and when you choose your 3 name choices, make sure that they're somewhat similar. Who's going to be responsible for getting any official letters? So something that's on this site for the Georgia Secretary of State, they're going to ask for a registered agent. So a registered agent in Georgia, this can be you, the business owner. So you can go onto the site, you can set everything up. If you were to be served with some papers because someone's suing you, if you were to be served with a notice that, hey, it's time to update your business registration, or, you know, any other thing, the registered agent is the person that's going to get the legal letters, the legal information on behalf of the business. And in Georgia, this is not the case in all states, but in the state of Georgia, this can be you, the business owner. And then you're going to need your NAICS for the site registration. So let's talk about what that is next. Okay. Actually, I guess we'll talk about that in just a moment. I apologize. We'll go to that in just a moment. So before you actually get to the NAICS, when you're sitting on the site, this is how you're going to get to it. I told you I wanted to make this very user-friendly. So you'll go to the Georgia Secretary of State, which we had on the last couple of slides. Then you're going to click on the following links. You'll actually click on, it'll say Business Search. Then under that, you will go to Online Services, and then you want to create or register a new business. It will cost you $100 if you're willing to wait 5 to 7 business days when you apply online. If you do it by mail, right now, we are still currently under a worldwide and U.S. pandemic. So if you can do it by online email, I'd strongly suggest you do that. Otherwise, trying to fill out the paperwork and mail it in and get it processed and then mail you something back. As a general rule, it would be 2 weeks, but that is not the case as of now. If you also need it to be same day, you can let's say that you've created something, you have a big check, you want to get it in the mail, whatever other reasons, you can pay an additional $250 as long as you submit this before noontime, and you can actually, in some cases, get it back that day. they'll expedite it for you if you'll pay the government the extra money to own that name quickly. And then that same afternoon, you could go ahead and get your EIN number and get yourself to the bank to set up your bank account. So what are you going to get out of this? You're going to get articles of organization that shows that you legally own the name. It's going to have the date that the state government and then therefore the federal government will recognize you as a legal business entity. Another thing to keep in mind is that annually you are going to have to pay to keep this name. It's $50 a year, and whatever email address that you put on the site when registering is they will send you a reminder notice. So every year before April, you do have to pay the $50 to keep your name. Otherwise, you will be administratively dissolved and someone else could buy your name and take all of your ideas and go with it. So that's important to also remember. So now we're going to talk about the NAICS. We talked about a minute ago about like what you need and where you need to go. But here is, what is an NICS? So a lot of times when I'm talking with someone, I'll get a phone call. Oh, I got this. I don't know what this means. Basically, it's a code, and you're going to have to choose from a drop-down list. So it's a classification so that the federal government honestly just knows how to tax you. So they're going to, are you in, what kind of industry are you in? How does the local government tax you for your business license? How does the federal government use it on your tax return? So it's a classification system. Are you in, have you ever wondered how we know how we have different kind of businesses? Are you in construction? Are you in services? What kind of services, etc.? So that's what this number is. So after you have obtained your legal name from the state, and you're going to need to get your federal employer identification number. So once the Secretary of State sends you something that says, congratulations, you are now a business, and here are your articles of organization, and it will say on this date, whatever it would be, this business, ABC Company, for example, is now registered as ABC LLC, and you are identified to own that name. But just because you own the name, now you need to have a number to go with it. And what this federal employer identification number is, every individual in the United States has a name and their social security number. Every legal business that is registered has a name and a federal identification number. So that's just kind of how to think of it. So what you're going to do, it's just right here. You're going to go to the irs.gov. And as I said before, for purposes of this class, it is assumed that you're going to do a single member entity sole proprietor. Okay, and you'll go through the steps and you will say, yes, I am an LLC. You'll write that down, the legal name of the company. You'll follow the steps. You'll have the same NAICS code. You'll say, this is how I registered. This is what I said I was going to do. And you'll keep that number. Now, here's the good news, is that on the irs.gov, when you go through this and you are registered, you will be able to get that number immediately. I always suggest to just go ahead and print it out and save it. Don't necessarily have to mail it, especially not right now. The mail is very behind. The government is very behind on mailing things out currently. So, but even if that wasn't the case, save it on your computer. And the reason I say that is that you do have an option. You can ask them to mail it to you, or you can go ahead and save a PDF on your computer, and then you can go ahead and print it out. Print 3 of these, because that your tax person is going to need it, and when you go to the bank, you're going to need it, and they're going to need a copy of that. And then any wholesaler that you're going to have, if you're trying to get products that you don't pay full price for, obviously, in order to get a discount to save yourself some money, they're also going to need it. So these are all things that will be needed. Setting up a sales tax is the next thing. If you are selling a product, that especially one that you have made, and you're not going through a larger business who's going to take care of that for you, okay? If you are just truly a small business that you're doing the whole thing yourself, and you're selling an item, you are going to need a Georgia sales tax number. Now you're going to have to go through a different site for that. You have to have your name first of the LLC, then your EIN number, and then your Georgia sales tax number, because all of these things are needed first. You'll register for that sales tax number through the Georgia Department of Revenue. You'll register yourself an account. You'll have a username and a password. And then every single month you can go online and you can do these sales tax reports. They're always due on the 20th, or currently, I mean, they have been for years unless they change something. They're due on the 20th unless the 20th falls on a holiday or a weekend. There is a late filing fee of $25 even if there's no money due. Okay, so once you set this up, then you need to be ready to file a zero report if you have zero. So I suggest, even if you know you're going to need one of these, until you're ready to be up and running and making some sales, do this, right before. If you're in the process of, it's going to take me 3 months to get up and running, don't do your sales tax number until right before you're ready to actually make sales. Or in all the stuff you're doing, you're going to forget, and month 3, you're going to owe them $75 just because you forgot. So these are just little quick tips to remember and know. Also, most payment apps these days that you do, they'll actually keep up with your sales tax amount due. So the great thing is that most little payment apps that you tell them what type of business you are again, and then it will say, here's how much sales tax, and you charge that to the customer, and then you can get a report at the end of the month, and then you just need to plug in those numbers with that registration that you've done on the Georgia Department of Revenue. Not everyone will need this watching this, but if you do, they will come after you quickly. The state of Georgia, for sales tax, they will come after you quickly if you forget to do this, and the fine is very unpleasant. So the next sessions that we actually will go through and talk about, but not there now, is about opening your bank account. I mean, we've talked about how do I make sure I'm a legitimate business? What do I need? What are the plans to set forth? How do I write it? Where do I register? If you do these basic steps that we've gone through and you print this out and you write it down, it's going to take some time. Then you're going to be ready to take the next steps. And the next steps in the next session is what we will talk about in session 2. Opening your bank account, setting up accounting, and then also doing some marketing. And that's a wrap for this session. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this has been informative, and I hope that you will tune in for the next session on how to take the next steps. Have a great day.